I'm your host, Janice Matui, and this is A Sit at the Table. A Sit at the Table delves into the intricacies of professional skills and emotional intelligence, offering insights on how you can thrive in the present and ensure long-term relevance. Serving as a gateway to mastering today's evolving professional and business landscape, our focus is to equip audiences with the necessary tools that ensure they thrive in the present, but also secure enduring relevance in the future. So join us, like and subscribe, A Sit at the Table, only on YouTube.
This is a very interesting question, and because a lot of people don't seem to even know who they are. But identify as an everyday guy, your neighbor, your next door guy. I was born somewhere in Kitwe, and we moved around the country. But at the moment, I like to say I'm from Azabuka because my parents stayed there longer and my dad's there. Yeah, generally that's who Owen is. But mostly, of course, people like to describe themselves in the context of work. So maybe if you allow me, I'll just tell you a bit about who Owen is in the marketplace, because that's where people know me, right? So with about 18 years experience, I started right at the bottom, what we say, in the trenches. I was a bank teller, and I made, obviously, progress through the system. I've always worked in the bank, by the way, so that's where I'm an expert. Having started off as a bank teller, I graduated and moved into technology. But there's something that's very interesting about my career. As I was thinking about it actually the other day, I've been privileged, but obviously with a lot of hard work at the back of it, to really average a promotion every 2 to 3 years. But it's been a lot of hard work. So yeah, Owen, everyday guy. I really value my family. My good times is when I'm really hanging out with the kids, because I think it really brings out some of the memories that I had. So that's who Owen is, and I like to be, a person that you can easily relate, talk to, and enjoy a conversation. But at the same time, I really like that I'm doing a job that I really like. I'm currently director for ABSA Zambia Digital and Tech. And I always tell everybody who asks me that for me, this is more than just a job. It's like a passion. So sometimes I don't even feel I'm working. Yeah, so that's who Owen is. 20 years ago, if you told me that I would be here and doing what I'm doing, I probably would have thought that you were mad. Because the one thing that I've known is that I knew I was going to do something I'm passionate about. And initially, I actually thought I'd be a football player because I really enjoy soccer. But maybe the environment I grew in didn't really give me the opportunity to explore that talent. But still, I knew that even if I don't become a footballer, I was always going to do something that I would be good at. And it really just tells me about how I look at life. I think that life has opportunities for everyone who is willing to put in the work. The story of my career, if you really go into it deep, I've had to make huge sacrifices. It's where you lose relationships, you lose out certain opportunities that are, otherwise an average guy or youth growing up would really be excited about. This is a bit about putting in the time. And what I found very profound is that if you want to do more, then you should do more. And if you want to be above average, then you should be above average. And it's really something that I've really carried along my life, because it's been about knowing that the world gives opportunities for those that are willing. And that inspires me a lot. So 20 years ago, looking back, I knew I was working hard in school, and I knew that I was going to do something important, but I didn't know what it was. If you'd care to know, I actually, when I finished school, when I was looking for work, I actually did 20 applications. And because I thought that you have more chances of getting employed if you do 20 applications than one. And I had an interesting moment where I had already started working at my job then as a cashier or a teller, as we were called then. That after 3 months I got another offer, which was going to pay me about 3 times more. But I did have a very, very deep conversation with my old man, and he's told me something that I think still holds true today. And he says that, and he gave it to me in the context of a story where he said, you know how monkeys want to go into a maize field and steal? And so this monkey goes into a maize field and tries to pluck off a cob. And when it was in the process, it sees another big one. So it leaves that one before it completes the process, and it goes to another one. And then when it just grabs the other big one, it sees there's a bigger one. So in the process, the monkey went into 4 or 5, potential cobs it could pluck. But the interesting thing is that before it could pluck the cob that it wanted, the farmer came and the monkey had to run away for his life. And the story is that you have to also sort of pick a spot and hold it, because the monkey now ran away without a cob of maize. And he was trying to tell me that you are in a job now. If you try and focus on it, you'll probably have a meal. But if you try and jump from job to another before you actually settle and you become who you are, you might end up moving from one place to another and not get fulfillment. And today when I look back, maybe that was one of the biggest stories I ever got, because it was exciting. I was young, getting a job that would have paid me more, but still stuck to this one. But the good news, and I smile when I think about it now, barely 5 years later, my same job that I stuck to gave me so much growth and a reward which was double what I would have left for. So I guess I made the right decision at the time. So the digital age is really, really interesting. And to be ahead of the curve, the biggest hotspot for any individual is to be a person that reads. And I'll tell you why that is very simple. And people don't get this. Knowledge is so much powerful that it can open doors for you. I read literally every chance I get, and I'm paying the price for it with my eyes. But the reason is that digital is always trying out the next best thing. So if you're going to know what it is, then you must spend time, studying. Just a few weeks ago, I was in London, and the reason I went there was to just see what people are doing that's different from us. And in sitting down with people of like minds, then you realize that you can always learn. And that's the second thing I think about when I look at how you can continue to market lead and transform. So open yourself to knowledge, which is reading, which is engaging, share knowledge. But the biggest value out of it is be open to hearing others and learning. I think there's more value in learning, much more, because then you know what you didn't know and you can be better than that. But that is more or less at a personal level. But if you look at it from a work perspective, for you to be market leading, for you to be very innovative, there's a lot of things that you need. One of them, from an intent, your organization should have a very clear digital strategy. And I always say that, and I don't feel bad repeating these words because I know it, that most boardrooms misuse the word digital transformation. They barely understand it. And so in the process, because it's been a buzzword for so long, everybody has not many people have taken time to understand it. So at an organization level, your strategy should be very clear that you want. And where I work, for me, what I find very enabling is that the intent is clear. They the way we look at digital is at the highest level of the organization. And that becomes one, and it's clear that my organization is very big on digital, and that's how we want to drive our agenda as a bank, but also how we want to market lead and just be thought leaders in the market. So yes, strategy becomes one thing. The second thing is your structure as an organization. How are you set up? Because even with the West systems, if you've got the right structure, and this is structure from capacity in skills, technology, environment, and environment then touches on what the government is saying. Is there enough policy? That becomes your second enabler in terms of how you can be digital. The third one really is the amount of awareness you create around the things you want to do. Let me give you a simple story. The other year we decided we were going to do a hackathon. Now, when you think of a hackathon and a bank, it's very difficult to connect the two. And even within my environment, it was very difficult to convince some of my colleagues that this was important to do. Now, the whole idea of the hackathon was we were trying to create awareness around the value of data and how data then can help organizations transform. But within there, we noticed an opportunity of pooling talent so that the bank could have a wider option in terms of where we can get people that can help us commercialize the data. The third thing also was to work with the government, because the government is at a point where they're embracing technology in driving the economy. And at the center of that will be the use of data. So there were many reasons to that. But the reason I'm sharing this is that the way that you want to be ahead is to be able to take risks, but also to be patient with the process. And therefore, I really resonate with the fact that if you're going to get to a point that you really want, you don't get there if you stop at every noise that you hear. We were focused. I was focused. And when you do that, you have a higher chance of achieving what you want. But you have an important role in making sure that your stakeholders understand what you want, which is where your ability to communicate, your ability to align your stakeholders becomes very important. So look, you can do so much, but I do think that when you have got a clear strategy, when you've got a clear environment, which will be the structure around it, when you have a clear resources, it's all that you need in terms of you being able to be ahead of the digital curve. But just to conclude, at a personal level, you must never forget that you have to keep learning, you have to keep exposing yourself, and you have to keep sharing what you know. So the AI industry currently is about $150 billion, okay? And it's anticipated that it will grow by a CAGR of 38% from now into 2023 to 2030. And the reason I'm giving you these numbers is to make you understand how you cannot ignore AI. And it's in your real benefit to try and understand what AI will bring to you as benefit. So as a leader, the first thing that I always say is I have a responsibility to first of all simplify what this AI is for people to understand, whether it's AI itself, of course, or blockchain. The simple view of what these are simple technologies that I use. AI, which is called artificial intelligence, is really when you use digital or computers or technology to simulate human behavior, right? If you look at blockchain, this is digital currency. Now, this is reality, and sometimes people want to refer these for the future, but they're now. Today in your house, you literally can automate everything, and that's the use of AI. Okay, so AI is actually already here. Now, it's going to influence a lot around how we will be as a people. I read a quote, and I just can't remember by who, but it was a very interesting one, which says the last 10 years or so has been about transforming technology, right? But the next will be about transforming businesses. And that's profound because technology now is actually available. The issue that we have now is people embracing it, people beginning to use it. Let's pick an organization that, for example, deals with manufacturing. The amount of process engineering that can happen in there using AI is massive. The amount of automation that can go, for example, even in industries like education, is massive. How you manage students, how you handle exams, how you do your training and everything. So I think for me, we shouldn't even think of it in the context of a future. We must be thinking of it of how it's influencing life now. We just came out of a very difficult COVID period. Part of how the whole process was enabled was at the center of what AI could do. Just this morning when I was reading, some organizations are actually beginning to use AI in how they recruit people, so it's here to stay and it's currently new. So as a leader, my responsibility now, if you look at to the organization, is to be the vision carrier for what we can do with technology. And that's then what we use to make sure that as an organization we remain relevant. If you go into blockchain or digital currency, I always like to explain it from simplicity of how mobile money started. When mobile money started, I remember at some point where MNOs used to come to the banks literally every week to come and convince us that we need to do integrations. And you flip it 10 years later, banks are running to MNOs and say, let's integrate. So this is what digital currency will do. In the moment, in some markets, it's a bit mature. In a market like ours, maybe not so much. But nothing stops me from believing that in the next couple of years, we could transition and that becomes one of the main currencies. In part, it is really because it's a transition from physical cash to digital cash, which is now what you do with your mobile wallet. But now we're just tweaking it to make it more, crypto, which is, again, digital. So these are our realities. The responsibility for people like me in the market is to help the market understand not just the opportunity, but the risks as well. And if we get it right, we can be well ahead of competition, well ahead of market.